No, we're all good. We'll go in unchanged, which is a really strong position to be in. I think it's the second time this year we've done it, so we're very happy with that. Yeah. Oh, look, I think the fact that the opposition kicks 19 goals against you isn't great. You don't win too many games when they kick 120 points. So, that's certainly one area that they scored fairly quickly at times. They put 2, 3, 4 goals on in a short space of time. So, some of those areas I think we need to touch up on just our defence. Look, Taylor will. He's got great footy knowledge and instinct, so he'll certainly watch the game pretty closely. I know he's talking to the players now. He was fairly successful against Fremantle last year, particularly in the final and a couple of other games. So he'll just pass on some little hints and pieces of advice, but nothing official. I'm sure as we get organised and Taylor gets a bit more mobile and he gets into his rehab, we'll find some stuff for him to do, because he does have that ability, but just not quite yet. It is, yeah. He's fantastic. We all know he's a great presence to have around the club, and he's in good spirits, which is good to see. You're right. He doesn't seem as dominant as last year, probably because his numbers probably suggest that as well. It's a tough one. Just players go through ebbs and flows with their form. I think last week was probably an anomaly for Sam, because the prior 2 weeks have been pretty good. So we were sort of seeing some improvement. His jumping was improved. But yeah, it was one of those weeks where he came up against Goldstein and just had the better of him. It's interesting because when we look at the pure statistics, Sean McKernan was actually no better in the centre square than what Sam was. So, but it was just Sean was actually a bit more bouncy around the ground and got involved more there. So, we expect Sam to bounce back just like any other player that has a bad game and who's an experienced player. We expect that we would see some sort of response this week. So we've got great confidence that he'll play well this week. Yeah, well, last year he had an enormous workload and he played really well. But the season is really demanding, and we've got this year in particular. If you look at Kerridge, Brown, Laird, a number of young players that have been introduced to the side that we'll have to be really watchful to make sure that we manage their loads and we watch them closely to see if there is any sign of fatigue, that we make sure we look after them. So probably at this stage, Source isn't in that category yet, and we've got a bye coming up, so there's an opportunity for us to manage the players through that as well. So he's fine. Yeah, it's a really good test because I've read in a few places this week that the teams we've beaten have all been teams that are outside of the 8, and then now we played a bona fide sort of top 5 or 6 team, best defence in the competition, really well organised, really well coached. So it's a great challenge for us. We were one of the few teams that had success against Fremantle last year. I think we were the only team that beat them from about round 13 onwards. So we're confident that our game style is sufficient enough to be able to get it done. We understand that when you beat a team on a couple of occasions in a row, it's unlikely they come back and try and play exactly the same way. So there'll be some adjustments that they'll make, and we'll certainly make some adjustments as well. But it's going to be a great game. I'm not sure really. Our game style is one that we take the game on a little bit. So you can't afford when you play Freo to be safe. You really have to attack. So we'll be looking to attack this week. it's a bit like Brisbane 01, 02, 03. Everyone knew what they did, but they're very, very good at what they do, and I think that's probably Ross Lyon's trademark, is that he's able to get everyone on the same page. He's able to have everyone committing to that. One of the things about a really strong press or defensive unit is that if one or two people aren't committed to it and aren't in the right spot and don't support their teammates, then it all falls apart and teams go straight through and they score really heavily. That's the strength of Fremantle, is everyone is really tight, really united, really on the same page, and that doesn't sound very difficult, but I assure you that it is, particularly when they've gone deep into their list now. So it's not the same 20 players that are playing with each other every week that you can say, yeah, we adjust it and we get better. They've probably introduced, 6 or 7, had to introduce through injury, 6 or 7 new players into that who have just jumped straight into that system and been able to hold up exactly the same as the first 22. So that's why they're so good. Well, it's interesting because I had a look at our team. We've got 9 different players from what we were last year. So, they've got a couple of differences. Pavlich is out, obviously. He's a pretty important player for them, and I'm sure there's others. But I think it's just another year under their coach, another pre-season. Some of their younger players, look a lot more comfortable now. So, look, they're going to be tough no matter what. It'll be pretty hard to compare that. Oh, look, I think we'd stay unchanged. All that planning is for what we've picked. If you look at our forward line, we're not a super tall forward line anyway, and they've got, one of the things they do really well is get numbers back in their defence. So, if they've got Johnson and McFarlane and Dawson, there's 3 pretty tall guys, and if you put an extra number back there, you can't afford to give up that aerial presence. So at this stage, we would be highly unlikely to make any change because of the weather.
You guys have said a couple of times that I'm not a big fan of shootouts, but
Oh, no doubt it won't be a shootout this week. So it's great for us because one, it gives us a great chance to test our offence, because we think we're doing that reasonably well. And the other thing is it's a great test for the defence. They play this sort of slingshot offence where they get a lot of numbers back, they win it back there with their numbers and then go really hard forward. So if your defence isn't on, blokes like Hill and Ballantyne and those guys spit out really quickly and get goal side of it. So, there's a challenge for us, but that's the game we're in, and that's the nature. In different sides, you play each week, play differently, and it'll be a good test for us. Yeah, mainly the guys that are going to play in his position and play on the guys he's played on. I know that last year McFarlane wasn't playing, but certainly played on Dawson a bit. I know Silvani's playing up the other end, but over the last 3 years or so, Taylor's had reasonable success against Freo. So, but it wouldn't matter who we're playing. Taylor is a great person to give advice. Just on the nature of footy, we've got a very inexperienced forward line. If you look at Lynch, McKernan and Jenkins, your 3 sort of tallest players have probably played JJ's probably played the most, or Shawnee's played the most, about 25 games. So any experience that Taylor can pass on is very welcome. Oh yeah, look, we've been happy that we've been able to create a few different looks. So I think since Taylor's gone down, we've actually taken the most marks inside 50 than any other team in the competition, which is probably what we wouldn't have predicted once Taylor fell over. So that's great that we've been able to adjust. Some weeks it's been Lynch, some weeks it was Kerridge last week, other weeks it's been Dangerfield. So we've been able to have that unpredictability, which is important. Josh has been a constant. He's given us a really good presence there. In the last couple of weeks, Shawnee's been improving as well. So for us, though, it's about an even contribution. We've had probably between 9 and 11 goal kickers the last 3 or 4 weeks. So we need that even contribution to be able to kick a winning score. I don't think the playing group would know about it. I just I heard it or read it somewhere, and when you look at that, I think you've got to take that with a pinch of salt, because the Kangaroos, whilst their ladder position doesn't represent them being in the top 8. I think they're a quality side, and they've proven that by running almost all the top 4 sides they've played right to the edge. So we haven't actually played a huge amount of those finalist sides yet anyway. So we're just looking forward to challenging ourselves against them. Yeah, that's something we've looked at fairly extensively. Blokes like Mundy and Barlow and Fife, they're really big guys, and if you saw them last week, they really monstered Melbourne. We've got our share of guys who got some size about them as well. Whilst Tomo isn't tall, he's like a bull. Dangerfield, he's big and strong. So we've got our share of guys that go through there. They also have some, Pearce and Hill also move through the midfield, and they're not sort of big, but we'll make sure that physically we match it with them, we think.